actually read it without them.
Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's Last Post ceremony. My name is Malia Hampton, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Air Force is Warrant Officer Jonathan Durant. We warmly welcome the family of Company Sergeant Major William James Maclaren, whose story will be told shortly. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL and Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria and RSL Queensland, who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the pool of reflection by family and visitors to the memorial. If you're able, please stand and join in singing the National Anthem.
Australians, oh, let us rejoice, for we are young and free. We've golden soil and wealth for toil, our home is girt by sea. Our land abounds in nature's gifts of beauty rich and rare. In history's page let every state advance Australia fair. In joyful strains then let us sing, advance Australia fair.
The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends would mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed on the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the pool of reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Company Sergeant Major William James Maclaren. William Maclaren was born in 1874 to William and Anne Frances Maclaren at Friarstown, near Castlemaine in Victoria. He attended Castlemaine Grammar School and on leaving school became a miner in the district. In 1899, war broke out between the British Empire and the two Boer republics in southern Africa. It became known as the Boer War. Australian and other British colonies sent contingents of soldiers to support the British Imperial Army. After Federation in 1901, Australia sent troops overseas for the first time as a nation. Maclaren was one of these men. He enlisted in the 2nd contingent, joining the 4th Battalion Australian Commonwealth Horse in February 1902. Maclaren arrived in Durban, South Africa, just as peace negotiations were beginning. And his battalion saw service guarding and escorting Boer delegates to the peace conference in Vereeniging. Once the peace agreement was signed on the last day of May, the 4th Battalion participated in celebratory parades in Pretoria and returned to Australia in August. Maclaren married Mary Dons in 1905, and the couple had 4 children. In 1908, he became a teacher at Panamaloo State School near Rochester, Victoria, and eventually became headmaster of the school. When Britain declared war against Germany in 1914, Maclaren was one of the first to enlist in the Australian Imperial Force. He joined the 7th Australian Infantry Battalion in August. With his South African War Service and 6 years in the Victorian Militia, he enlisted at the rank of sergeant. 2 months after he signed up, he embarked from Melbourne on the transport ship Hororata as part of the first convoy of transport ships to leave Australia for the war. Maclaren and the 7th Battalion arrived in Egypt in early December. The Australian troops trained in Egypt for the next several months, preparing to join the British offensive in the Dardanelles that aimed at knocking the Ottoman Empire out of the war. On the 25th of April 1915, the 7th Battalion was in the 2nd wave of the Australian and New Zealand troops who landed at Anzac Cove. Maclaren performed his duty well, and at the end of April, he was promoted to Company Sergeant Major. In early May, the 2nd Brigade, of which the 7th Battalion was part, was transferred from the west coast of the Gallipoli Peninsula to Cape Helles at the southern tip. Their objective was to support the British, New Zealand and French soldiers attempting to capture the village of Krithia. At 5:30 p.m. on the 8th of May 1915, the men of the 7th Battalion advanced across open ground and began to dig in under heavy Turkish rifle and machine gun fire. During the advance, Maclaren was killed. He was 40 years old. Having sustained heavy casualties, the Australian troops had to retreat and his remains could not be recovered. William Maclaren is commemorated at the Helles Memorial on the Gallipoli Peninsula, alongside more than 20,000 Allied servicemen who died at Cape Helles and have no grave. Maclaren was survived in Australia by his wife Mary and their 4 children, Donald, Thelma, William Maurice and Eleni. Company Sergeant Major William James Maclaren is listed on the Roll of Honour on my right, amongst 62,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. His photograph is displayed today beside the pool of reflection. This is but one of many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Company Sergeant Major William James Maclaren, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the reading of the ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them. Lest we forget.
We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the last post ceremony. We thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial and wish you all a very good evening.